Good morning and welcome. It's Friday. I'm pretty sure it's Friday. It's the second day of August 2024. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. It does seem the bizarre fog has rolled away and the sun is back. It's day 2 of Steve the Cat's birthday week. It's also my birthday week, but at my age, who cares? It's more important than my cat. He's 2 years old. And it's also day 2 of Gencon, the first official day. I mean, sure, Gencon opened its doors yesterday, but it's a Thursday, right? I mean, it's really Friday, Saturday, Sunday when we're going to get the bulk of the important stuff tonight, probably, and most of tomorrow. But Wizards of the Coast dominated most of the news yesterday coming out of Gencon. It should come as no surprise to anybody that it did. We do have some rumors. One of them has already been confirmed of some ne'er-do-wells who have been running around Gen Con and doing some not nice things, generally making a nuisance of themselves simply because they can and because their brand is being angry at 5e, even though Gen Con has very little to do with 5e. So that's sad. And there was some vague rumor about something else, but I haven't confirmed that. So there's no reason to follow up on it. But yeah, obviously there is some negative stuff coming out. And again, most of Wizards of the Coast is going to dominate most of the news, unfortunately. Not to say that there's not other things coming out, but it's Wizards, it's Hasbro. We know they're paying for the coverage. We know it's going to be the big thing. But really, the secret big story running through Gen Con so far is board games. Just the amount of board games that are coming out, the amount of excitement board games are getting, the amount of good board games are getting, including finally more Hero Quest. For every Wizards of the Coast centric video report article I found, there is at least 4 about board games. Now, that's not my kettle of fish normally for you guys. I can't, I haven't played a board game in years. I don't think I've ever, last time I won a board game was even longer. What do I know about board games? Roll dice stuff happens. Occasionally there's cool figures, right? And, I enjoy accessionalities way more than I ever thought I would. But yeah. So there is board game news. And unlike role-playing game news, which is, vague and often hinted by, tinged by opinion and whatever, at least board game news is very clear, concise, and to the fact. I wish more of us in the role-playing game center of the universe would be more like the board game people, because they're just, hey, this is coming out, this is what you could expect, this is what's in it, this is blah 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 blah, very excited about this game. So and so who wrote this board game once said something 10 years ago about something. I don't care. As opposed to role players who are still like blah, 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 about blah, 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 blah. And especially when it comes to Wizards of the Coast. So none of the Wizards of the Coast announcements should shock anybody. The big thing, of course, was, hey, the Player's Handbook. Look, Player's Handbook. We've got a lot of articles about it on EN World. We've got a collection of all the announcements from... who's this from? This is from Game Radar. I'm not sure where Game Radar rates in our, do we think they're really on the ball or not? But Forbes also covered it. So let's go over the Wizards of the Coast ones first, and then we'll cover the Paizo and a couple of the other ones that we know. But again, this is, that was yesterday. So most of the big announcements from the other guys will be today and tomorrow and maybe Sunday. But I'm going to do all the news a day later, so all the other sites have a chance to collate it, and I have a chance to, reference each one to try and pick out. So again, Wizards of the Coast. And none of these should surprise anybody. And if you are still surprised, dude, that's on you. At this point, that is on you. I can only tell you so many times. Wizards of the Coast can only tell you so many times. Hasbro can only tell you so many times what their plans are. If you continue to disbelieve it, that's on you. All right. Number 1, should come as no surprise to anyone. Your characters from Baldur's Gate will now be able to be played on the D&D virtual tabletop because, Wizards somehow lost the people that were creating Baldur's Gate 3 but they still have the engine. So the D&D tabletop AI running thing, if you have characters in Baldur's Gate 3, you'll be able to port them over and play them as normal characters in the virtual reality VTT. So basically more and more, hey, we're doing a VTT, virtual reality VTT, but it's really going to be more of a board of a video game than it is going to be a role-playing game. I mean, the mechanics of Baldur's Gate are completely different than the mechanics of 5e/6e. You can't convert a video game character to tabletop RPG because there's literally things that a character in a video game can do that a character in a tabletop role-playing game can't do. Just can't, because the mechanics are different, right? But yeah, so considering there's completely different mechanics, completely different programming, I don't know how it's going to cross-platform, but apparently Baldur's Gate and Project Sigil, which is now the new name for the virtual tabletop, will be able to cross-platform, which means the virtual tabletop's basically going to be Baldur's Gate, but with some more player control. But instead of it, looking like any other virtual TTT, you're going to have little dings and dots and pull-down menus and more of the digitization, video gameization of D&D. And of course, there were people who went, what? Why would you do that? How dare you, D&D? And there were people going, nah, this is bullshit. Wizards of the Coast is never going to do that. And then there's those of us who are been talking, those of us like myself who've been telling you this since 2020. Oh, yeah. I mean, why? I can't believe there are still people in the community who are surprised or upset by this. Or think it's not going to happen, other than they're just unbelievably delusional, or they're continuing to perpetuate the myth that Wizards isn't going to do this because that's their brand. And they get more hints and more, I don't know. Do you feel like you get more heat by continuing to perpetuate the myth that Wizards is not doing this? Because they're doing it. And here's further proof that they're doing it. So if there was any question, again, if they're doing it, here's the Wizards literally telling you in front of a sold-out audience what they have planned. So again, if you're these people who don't believe it's happening, that you're either unbelievably delusional, you're saying that because that's what your audience wants to say, or you're just dumb. I don't know, man. But hey, if it gets your site hits, yeah, I know. Oh, not Gleamix. Yeah, I don't know why they didn't call it Gleamix. That's weird. Yeah, Gleamix. But yeah, Project Sigil. The name could change. They have been passing out hints for what the new Monster Manual will look like, which means the new Monster Manual is done. I don't know why we have to wait to next year to see it. If it's done, it again makes absolutely no sense to anybody why you would wait to have the Monster Manual be last. You either have the Monster Manual and the Player's Handbook come out at the same time, or you have the Monster Manual first, Player's Handbook second, DM's Guide third. DM's Guide should be the last of the three. Monster Manual is is your bread and butter. Then Player's Handbook. Then, DM's Guide, because Monster Manual is the easiest. So why is it that the one we're going to have to wait the longest with when you're just showing us 100% it's done? And it probably has been done for a while. Why do we have to wait to next year for the 50th anniversary new updated Monster Manual? Monster Manual is the easiest. Of all the three, it's the easiest. You literally just cut and paste. I've got 10 years of monsters that we've made for 5e. They're all in the computer already. I might have to make one or two changes to fit new 5e, 6e, but other than that, that's what, a day's worth of work, 2 days worth of work to have the AI part. It should have been one of the first. So yeah, no surprise. EN World has cut and paste several of them into smaller things if you want to look like that, if you want to go to EN World. And, they've got some of the ones that they showed. Looks like we've got skeletons. We've got Car Tour. We've got Green Dragon. We've got a couple others. If you want to see them individually. But yeah, Monster Manual's out. Monster Manual is available. We're not going to get it till next year, but obviously they finished it. And they've been one of the big things was them going around yesterday going, hey, look, Monster Manual. Hey, look, here's some monsters. Yeah, nobody cares. There's new features in the new player's handbook that make the game completely different. Really? Oh, and there's a glossary now. And apparently people are excited about that because there wasn't one before. If that's the thing that people came out of most excited about, that there was a glossary / appendix, it really does not show a lot of great things for the player's handbook. Now we know Crawford has admitted it at least twice. It is a brand new edition, despite all the rumors otherwise. In his interview with Jeannie D at around 4 minutes and 50 seconds, she tricks him into admitting it's a new edition. He also said in one of the most recent interviews, he slipped and said it was a new edition. So all this bullshit about being backwards compatible. Yeah, no, it's a new edition. All right. It is a brand new, completely different edition. So whatever. Nobody cares at this point in time. We know that there's going to be new stuff in the DM's guide, magic items, the Bastion rules, which was actually something cool. For those of you who have heard, the example campaign in the DM's guide is going to be Greyhawk. Now, I don't know what's going on with the legality of Greyhawk anymore, because I thought, Troll Lord Games had all the rights to all the Gygax stuff. But I guess, the original Greyhawk shit is still in that box of stuff that Wizards of the Coast technically owns. So they can do whatever they want with it. So I expect it to be pretty awful considering how they're portraying Gary Gygax and Dave in the original D&D. But this is not going to be the campaign setting for 6E. At least that's what they're claiming. This is just the example in the back of the book. For the DM's guide. Now it's Wizards, so they could be lying, and we could expect, sometime next year, Greyhawk 2025. So yeah, Wizards of the Coast dominated. They had several small ones, one big one, and they didn't say anything we didn't already know. Forbes, of all people, got us some news. Paizo has announced Starfinder 2nd Edition. That's not news. They announced that a year ago. We also have a bunch of other stuff that Paizo announced. Paizo Pizza, whatever. If we go to the Paizo Gencon, Starfinder 2nd Edition, that's not new. The Pathfinder Wars of the Immortal meta event, that's cool that they're doing it, but that's not new. And they've been talking about the War of the Immortals since 2023, and doing a meta event of War of the Immortals is cool. They're still letting us know that they're releasing more stuff for the Teen Z world book setting. There's some new adventure paths coming out, new settings, new path books, new monster stuff, new stuff for Lost Omens. There's a card game that they're coming out with. Of course, they've got their video game stuff. So basically, Paizo was there to tell you, hey, we're doing stuff that we already told you that we were doing. No, nothing new and exciting. Starfinder 2nd Edition, we know you were doing that. That's not an announcement. Pathfinder War of the Immortals, we knew you were doing that. That's not an announcement. That's not a surprise. That's like me going, hey, I'm going to have lunch today. And everybody's going, yeah, we know you're going to have lunch. You told us that, and you have lunch every day. That's not a surprise. I'm a car company. I make cars. Really? That's not a surprise. You don't. You didn't need to take up an hour to tell us the stuff we already knew. Would rather have seen some more information on Starfinder 2nd Edition and stuff you really have planned for 2025. But whatever. There's a Welcome to Night Vale game, role-playing game, coming out. Do you know what Welcome to Night Vale is? If you don't, it is a podcast that has been running for a very long time about an imaginary city called Night Vale where weirdness happens. Think of it, if you know what Gravity Falls is, the TV show cartoon that Gravity Falls, think of it as a podcast with the same sort of feel to it. Not 100% horror, but just creepy, weird, eerie Indiana. What goes behind closed doors? Did I just see a Bigfoot type thing? It's very cool. If you've never listened to it, I highly recommend it. They also do live and they do radio plays and they tour doing a live performance of it. And now they've got a serial storytelling role-playing game coming out set in the Night Vale universe, which just sounds weird. But okay, yeah. We could see. I mean, that could be fun. New Shadowrun's coming out because there seems to be always new Shadowrun coming out, including a Shadowrun board game called Takedown. So we'll get some more stuff on Shadowrun. And Free League has announced Moria, the long dark setting for the One Ring 2nd Edition and the 5e version that they both do. So if you've always wondered what went on in Moria, besides the few minutes we've seen it in, Lord of the Rings, and if you've read some of the other stuff, but if you're just like, and they call it a mine, okay, what is this Moria place? Well, it looks like they've managed to go through every bit and scrap of information that was ever published about Moria, and then do extra, some other stuff with it to sort of tell you not only the complete history of Moria, but run some adventures in that setting, because it's definitely one of the, I think, more what else happened here, right? Parts of the mythology of Lord of the Rings. What else? Also, Free League announced that they're doing a 2nd edition of Alien, the role-playing game, just to coincide with the release of Alien Romulus, the brand new Alien movie that's coming out. I didn't really think Alien needed a 2nd edition, but they're also talking about doing 2nd editions of other stuff. So, if you never had a chance to pick up Mutant Year Zero, they might be doing a redone of Mutant Year Zero, and this might be your chance to get it. They already did Coriolis and a huge Coriolis run, which was not only a 2nd edition, but it was also sort of like a reboot. So if you'd never played Coriolis before, you could jump in right there. And if you had played Coriolis before, it didn't really, it was backwards compatible as opposed to not backwards compatible. So this is going to continue the Alien story that they've been telling in the Alien books, and tie in with Romulus, of course, because why not? And so it should be fun. I mean, I had the first one and it's cool. I've always been a fan of the Alien, Colonial Marines, Predator, other things that have shown up in that timeline, depending upon which interpretation of it, Hey, I mean, we had Batman versus Predator. Does that mean Batman is canon to the Alien universe? Is Predator still part of the Alien universe or not? What about Terminator? Because we know that's, we've had that in the comics. Does that mean is that still comic? Is the comic book Alien universe canon to the role-playing game? Because it is, that means Batman exists in the Alien universe, which would be awesome. And Magpie Games has announced that they're doing a role-playing game called Fallen London. This is, of course, based upon the whole Fallen London, Sunless Sea, Sunless Skies series of books, and the Fallen London 2009 video game about, post-apocalyptic London that's been flooded, and there's underneath caverns. Yeah, it's really weird and cool and different. Victorian steampunk, post-apocalypse. London's been flooded. Magic. Yeah, it's weird. It's kind of fun. It could be cool. It's Magpie Games. Is this the first role-playing game Magpie Games has ever made? I mean, they do a ton of board games, but I don't know about role-playing. And yeah, that's it. That's it so far for day one. D&D, 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 a couple other companies. Board game. Magic the Gathering. Look, at this point, I think it's safe to say Magic the Gathering is writing itself, and Wizards is doing nothing. They announced the Monty Python and the Holy Grail Magic the Gathering, and more crossovers. I mean, it's at this point, Magic is 80% crossover with IPs, 10% revisits to previous Magic the Gathering, and 10% new name, same stuff. Let's just represent a mechanic, but with a new name instead of graveyard manipulation. It's got a different name. Instead of, what was it called? Scry. Instead of Scry, it's got a different name. Instead of, banding, it's got a different name. Instead of trample, we gave it a different name, but it's the same mechanic. And just all they're doing is new art. And the art isn't really that good, especially with the crossovers, because they don't have to do any art. They just have to scene steal, put it on a card. And that looks like the way they're going. So, yeah, that's pretty much Hasbro telling Wizards, we don't need you. Literally, Magic writes itself at this point in time. It is free money. It costs us nothing. All we have to do is look at older cards and regurgitate them and maybe change the name. Vigilance is now something else. It's still the same thing, does not tap, but whatever. We gave it a new name to fit the theme, because now the theme is Old West. Now the theme is Monty Python. Now the theme is Cyberpunk. Now the theme is let's revisit Avinica for the 37th time. Let's bring back Slivers another time. Yeah, Magic. Well, and that's it. Yeah, that's it. Now to top it off, of course, is the Player's Handbook. Because since the whole thing about day one from Wizards was the Player's Handbook, this is my time to sort of rub salt in the wounds and just say how shitty Wizards is treating you guys. Because there were 3,000 copies so far, and now we've been told there might be more, of the Player's Handbook available for anybody to pick up when they walked in the doors yesterday. So all those people who forked out money to get the pre-release, to make sure they got the copy when it ships on the 11th, 17th, whenever it ships sometime after this weekend. And, because, I'm guaranteed to get it first. I will have all these wonderful digital things that I can't use unless I have D&D Beyond and the VTT, but I'll have them. Ooh, digital maps, digital stuffy. If you can't squeeze it, it's whatever. And they're all like, yeah, I paid $160 to make sure I got it. And then Wizards is like, we're just going to take these 3,000 copies of the Player's Handbook and just hand them out to whoever's got $55. Oh, hello, person. You have $55? Player's Handbook. Oh, you pre-ordered it and we told you were going to get it before anybody else? Let me get my manager. So you're telling me this guy got it before me, even though I paid you to be sure I got it before anybody else. How is it then that this guy's getting it before me? Time travel? Dun 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 dun. That's Wizards. It's like a bad 80s sitcom, right? Like with a canned audience. Like every week Wizards does something dumb and people are like, I don't understand. But then it ends with Arnold going, what you talking about, Willis? or whatever, you know, it has that iconic at the end where everybody just has the canned laughter where somebody goes, "Oh, that Wizards of the Coast," you know, and it's just a dun 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 dun. And you got like wizards with the, you know, the smile and the what me, you know, like I got away with it. Next week I'll do it again, and everybody will forgive me by the end of the episode because I'm Dennis the Menace / Wizards of the Coast, right? / the cute kid from the TV show. That's Wizards. Dun 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 dun. Yeah, Professor DM and Bob Wilbuilder both did a video about this, the Wizards of the Coast shills, and some of the ugly responses they have been getting about it. And you know what? Can you blame them? I mean, we can cry and whine, but I mean, on the other hand, Wizards is going, "Hey, here's some money. Read our book, which will get your channel more money." And they're going, "Okay." It's not like it's not like they ever said they wouldn't. You know, Wizards of Bob Wilbuilder never said, "I'm never going to talk about D&D ever again." Professor Dungeon Master never said, "I'm never going to talk about D&D ever again." I mean, fuck. If they sent me a copy and said, "Hey, this will guarantee you more money and more views," I'd be like, "Well, I fucking hate what you're doing with the game, but I'm not going to turn down free money." Anyways, that's 27 minutes of me talking about Gen Con news so far. Again, it's the first real day of the convention, so hopefully we will have some more news from the other companies, the big boys, all the games we're expecting to hear stuff about, some of the smaller stuff, some surprises, maybe some superhero role-playing game news. That would be nice, because I don't know about anybody else, but I'm sick of D20 fantasy. I am so sick of D20 fantasy news. I get it. That's the bread and butter of the YouTube tabletop role-playing game community. But I, for one, would like to hear about other games. Surely there's a space game we could talk about, or a superhero game, or something that isn't just D20 fantasy. But D20 fantasy sells. Does it really? It's like saying, well, McDonald's makes the best burger because I've never had any other burger. Do they really? Do they really make the best burger? That's Wizards. Dun 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 dun.
Yo, check. Yeah, we're not the type to play games. You can stake claims. Came to show the movement moving like a freight train.